Hello everyone, welcome back to Great Broadway Fans YouTube channel. I'm Luke, and today I am bringing you my top 15 favorite movies of 2015. Last episode, I talked about my top 10 least favorite movies, and that was really negative, and so this is the positivity and happiness hour. Woohoo! Okay, so like I said in my previous video, I saw 25 movies this year, and so I decided, well, since it is the end of 2015, I'll do a top 15 favorite movie list. And I have my list here, and I am ready to get started, and I hope that you guys like this. And also, and I'll reiterate this at the end, leave in the comments down below what was your favorite movie of 2015. All right, number 15 was Hotel Transylvania 2. I was really surprised with this one, and I wish I could put it higher on this list, but, excuse me. But it was such a good movie. It was a fun time at the theater. I went with a really good friend of mine from school, and we were laughing our butts off throughout the course of the movie. And we were high-fiving and making faces at each other because it was so funny. Every joke landed, every character was perfectly well written. The voice cast is completely back from the original. And I will have to say that unlike Pitch Perfect 2 that I talked about in my least favorite videos list, Hotel Transylvania 2 is a perfect stepping stone up the ladder in building a franchise for the Hotel Transylvania movies. I thought it was a great addition, and I can't wait for the third one, which has been confirmed, so I'm excited for that. Number 14 is Amy. This is the only documentary that I saw this year, and I'm so thankful that I did watch it. My parents rented it on Apple TV, and they were like, hey, you should come in the room and watch this, and I did. Start to finish. And I have to be perfectly honest, when Amy Winehouse was alive, I was never a huge fan of hers, mainly because the only Amy Winehouse that I knew was the trashy, drug-addicted one that was always in the press. And then when she died, I felt bad, of course, but I was never emotionally attached to her until I saw this documentary. And now it's horrible that she's gone, and now I have just become obsessed with her voice. And I find myself listening to her music again now that she's gone. And I hope that the Oscars do not forget this documentary, because Amy was incredible. If you are looking for a documentary, if you are a fan of documentaries, and you're looking for a good one to watch that came out this year, Amy is the best. Number 13. Woman in Gold. This is a movie based on a true story starring Helen Mirren and Ryan Reynolds, and Helen Mirren plays a woman, a Austrian Jewish woman who 50 years after the end of World War II is suing to get a family painting back that was stolen by the Nazis, because unfortunately back when the Nazis were taking power, they stole a lot of expensive and family treasured artworks from Jewish families and either sold them or kept them for their own personal use. And the painting, she's called Woman in Gold, I'll put a picture right up here so that you know what painting it is, was stolen and put in the Austrian Art Museum. And for 50 years, it was credited as the Austrian Mona Lisa. And so Helen Mirren's character is suing to get this painting back in her family name and possession, and Ryan Reynolds plays her lawyer. And I have to tell you, I was very moved by this movie. Unlike Big Eyes, which made my least favorite list, and it was only at number 10 because I liked it, I liked Woman in Gold more because I felt the emotional turmoil that was happening with Helen Mirren's character more presently than Amy Adams' performance in Big Eyes. And I also have to give a shout out to the director of this movie, Woman in Gold, because he brilliantly uses color contrast and the filter of the camera when we have the present day action and then the flashback sequences that happen in the 1930s and 40s. I love this movie, and I'm really surprised that it didn't do well at the box office, and it's not doing well with critics either. Number 12 is American Sniper. I know this movie technically came out on Christmas Day of 2014, but I saw it in January of 2015 because it was... That movie, if my memory's correct, it was kind of like a slow build with slow releases. It wasn't wide on Christmas. It was building up slowly. So when I did get to see it in January, I was blown away by how breathtaking this movie is. And Bradley Cooper's portrayal of Chris Kyle will bring you to tears. It's just so heart-wrenching to watch this movie and know in the back of your mind how the film is going to end, because he unfortunately was brutally murdered. And this American hero is just... His story was completely worth telling, and I am really surprised that this movie did not get more recognition from awards ceremonies last year when it was up for major nominations. I loved this movie. I really did. And number 11 is another movie based on a true story, Trumbo. Now, this movie's making the rounds now, and Bryan Cranston plays Dalton Trumbo, who was a screenwriter in Hollywood back in the 1930s and 40s. And then apparently, it's interesting to note this, that when World War II started and we were allies with Russia, a lot of American citizens joined the Communist Party. But after the end of the war and moving into the 1950s, there was the big Red Scare, and everybody was frightened of communists because of their radical political affiliations and opinions. And Dalton Trumbo unfortunately made the blacklist in Hollywood, and he actually couldn't work under his name. And the movie is about him basically writing screenplays but not being able to claim credit because he was on the blacklist. And Helen Mirren again is in this movie. She plays Hedda Hopper, who was this despicable columnist that just wanted to ruin Dalton and everyone on the blacklist. And it really goes to show you just how narrow-minded people can be in a time of fear. Fear defeats more men than anything else in the world, and that's really unfortunate. But Bryan Cranston's performance is a force to be reckoned with. He's amazing. He's completely deserving of his Golden Globe nomination, and I'm hoping that he gets nominated for an Oscar, because he would be completely deserving of a nomination and or a win. Okay, number 10 is Paper Towns. This is the second film adaptation of a John Green novel following The Fault in Our Stars back in 2014. And I have to tell you that before The Fault in Our Stars movie came out, I had never heard of John Green. And so when the movie Fault in Our Stars came out, I recognized it, but I waited until it was available to rent on Netflix, and then I rented it. I fell in love with the movie, and I bought the movie, bought the book, and then, of course, when I heard that Paper Towns was coming out, I was really excited, because I wanted to see what else he'd done. But I have to tell you, when I was sitting in the theater watching Paper Towns as the ending is happening in front of my face, I was really upset, because I just didn't like the ending that was happening with Margot and Q. I thought that she was just being very nasty and cynical, and I'm like, he's gone to all this trouble to find you, and I'm not going to spoil anything, but basically I can't go into detail, because if you haven't seen the movie, I don't want to spoil it, but the ending was very dissatisfying when I was watching it in the theater. And then as soon as I left the theater and I was walking out, I was thinking about it, and then I thought to myself, oh, this is true. I mean, life is not always what you think it's going to be, or the outcome of a fantasy that you might have is not always the case. and you have to learn to accept that. And there's some beautiful performances in this movie. This is another teen drama that I think is going to go down in history with the other great ones. And I hope that, I know that it wasn't the box office juggernaut that Fault in Our Stars was, but Paper Towns is a very good movie. If you're looking for a great teen drama to watch, this is a very, very good one. I really enjoyed it. Okay, number 9, Avengers Age of Ultron. I am a huge Marvel fan. I'm a huge musical theater fan, Broadway fan, Disney fan, but I'm also a huge comic book fan and Marvel fan, and Avengers Age of Ultron was such a good movie. I actually preferred it to the first Avengers because I felt that there was more of what we wanted in this movie, and I honestly never felt a real threat with Tom Hiddleston's Loki in the first film, but the character of Ultron, I genuinely felt a sense of terror and a threat with this character. And I have to say, every single time I see Scarlett Johansson on film, I fall in love with her. And she's amazing. The whole cast is incredible. Chris Evans, oh my God, Robert Downey Jr., Chris Hemsworth, everybody in this movie. Fantastic. Action-packed. Loved it start to finish. And that final credit sequence with that giant statue made out of marble of all of the Avengers fighting together, that was beautiful. I stayed for that after credit sequence, and it was great. Okay, number 8 is Disney's live-action remake of Cinderella. I have to tell you that I have loved every single live-action Disney fairy tale that they have produced in the last 5 years. We've had Tim Burton's Alice in Wonderland, Oz the Great and Powerful, Maleficent, Into the Woods, and now we have Cinderella. And then in 2016, we're going to have The Jungle Book and Pete's Dragon, and then 2017 is going to see the release of Beauty and the Beast. And Cinderella, based on the trailers, I was immediately hooked by this because I have to say, as big of a Disney fan as I am, I'm not a huge fan of the 1950 animated Disney classic because I feel like we never get to meet Cinderella as a character. And being a person who is a feminist, I find the movie very anti-feminist in how you should just sit around and wait for Prince Charming to come for you and everything will live happily ever after. I mean, even I think that that's kind of poor storytelling, especially for children. If this movie's aimed at children, that's a very, very poor message. But this adaptation of Cinderella, I actually really preferred it more because we have all of the characters are fleshed out. We have a more concrete backstory for Cinderella and why she's doing what she's doing throughout the course of her life. And then, of course, we also get to see the motivations of the prince and the stepmother, which are incredible performances by Cate Blanchett, Richard Madden, and, of course, Lily James in the title character of Cinderella. And this movie is visually stunning. One of the most gorgeous films, if not the most gorgeous film I've ever seen in my whole life. That ballroom sequence will take your breath away with just how incredible the scenic design and the costumes are. I hope this film gets nominated for an Oscar for costumes because they would be completely deserving of it. Okay, number 7 is 50 Shades of Grey. Stop. I know what you're thinking. How can you possibly put this movie so high on this list? How could it possibly go above everything else that you just mentioned? How could this make your top 10? How is this not horrible? Let me say my piece. I never read the books, and I will never read the books because I hear that the books are garbage. However, when I kept hearing the reviews for this movie saying just how well it was, I decided, well, why not I just rent it on Netflix and see if it's worth all the hype that everyone's talking about? And I have to say, I was very pleasantly surprised with just how good this movie is. Here's the biggest thing in the movie's favor. The novel is told through first-person narrative through Anastasia's eyes. And E.L. James, let's face it, is not the greatest author of all time. And a lot of her dialogue is contrived, it's dopey, it's stupid, it's unrealistic. From the dialogue that I have read that people have said were thankfully cut from the movie. Now, the film is told through a traditional film narrative where there is no narrator. It's a third-person, omnipotent, all-seeing eye like most movies are. So you don't have all of Anastasia's contrived, stupid, poorly written dialogue in like an overvoice in her head. That's not how the movie's structured. So when you strip all that away and you focus on the characters, I honestly feel that this is a very different kind of love story. I mean, it is a very strange plot setup with how it's very interesting how this movie was written as, or this book actually was written as Twilight fan fiction before it was changed from vampires to a billionaire who's into BDSM. But I think that when you put that away and you focus on the actual characters of Anastasia and Christian, you have a really interesting dynamic between these two, and you cannot deny that their performances are very, very good. Yes, the screenplay does fall flat in a few areas, but overall this movie was very, very good. I thought it was very surprising just how good it was, but I ask you to tread cautiously if you ever watch this movie. You have to pick and choose who you want to watch it with, and if you are comfortable in yourself to watch this movie, because I'm a 21-year-old adult, and I watched it by myself because I just wanted to see what all the fuss was about. And when I did, I mean, this movie's very graphic sexually, but I have to say it was a very pleasant surprise that this movie was not unwatchable. Number 6 is The Age of Adeline. This is a beautiful movie starring Blake Lively about a woman who gets in a car accident when she's about 26, 27 years old in 1935, and she falls into an icy lake, and a lightning bolt hits the lake. It jumpstarts her heart and brings her back to life, and she doesn't age a day for the rest of her life. And she goes decades not aging a day, and she has to change her identity every 10 years and move to a new city, and she's never fallen in love until she meets Mr. Right. And I have to say, everybody poo-pooed this movie. Everybody was like, oh, this movie, like, why should we feel sorry for Blake Lively? She's got everything. She's a successful millionairess, and she's 25 forever. But I have to say, I loved her performance. I felt it was very genuine and real, and I have never seen Blake Lively in anything before this movie, but the trailers hooked me. And I have to say, I loved it, start to finish. I have seen this movie 3 times already. I saw it once in theaters with my grandmother, twice after I bought it on DVD, and I love The Age of Adeline. Okay, number 5 is Inside Out. This, I feel, is one of the most sophisticated Pixar movies that has been released in a great while. I mean, they've come out with some beautiful ones, like all of the Toy Story movies and Finding Nemo and Ratatouille, especially Toy Story 3. But I feel that as of late, Pixar has unfortunately fallen into the sequel bandwagon. And so it's good to see them return to form with better original ideas. And I have to say, The Good Dinosaur made my least favorite list for a reason. Inside Out made my favorite list because I felt that all of the characters were so perfectly well written. I felt that the characters, especially of joy and sadness, were so well written, and they grow and develop as characters. Both of them do. And both of them learn in the end really important lessons, that it's okay to be sad sometimes. You don't have to be happy all the time. You can have an equal balance of both happiness and sadness in your life, because everybody has those emotions. And this is also, I said that The Good Dinosaur had stunning computer animation in its favor, and so does Inside Out. The world building of this, their interpretation of the human mind, very cartoonish and very colorful, I loved it so much. And I'm really hoping that it gets nominated for an Oscar for Best Animated Feature, because I think it's completely deserving of it. And I loved this movie. Welcome back, Pixar. Thumbs up in my book. Number 4 is Kingsman: The Secret Service. This movie, for me, came completely out of nowhere. I forgot that this movie was even out until long after it had already been released on DVD. And everybody had said that it was one of the best movies that they had seen all year. And I, like 50 Shades of Grey, decided to rent it just to see what all the fuss was about. And I was so blown away by this movie. It's action-packed, it's funny, it's got incredible performances in it, and I think it's one of the best spy movies I have seen in my entire, life. I loved it, loved it, loved it. If you are a fan of comedies, action movies, spy movies, or British films, watch Kingsman: The Secret Service. Just go watch the movie, and then come back in the comment section tell me just how good it is. All right, number 3 is the Peanuts movie. This is my highest ranking animated film on this list, and I have to say, one of the best animated films I've ever seen, period. I think in order of my favorite animated films, it goes Beauty and the Beast, Toy Story 3, and then the Peanuts movie. This movie is chock full of beautiful childhood nostalgia, because the Peanuts have been around for decades, but yet also at the same time very contemporary and modern, and doesn't make it dated. It makes it timeless. I think all the Peanuts movies are timeless, especially this one. And I adore this film so much. And I know I said that I want Inside Out to get Oscar nominations and wins, but I really want the Peanuts movie to win something, because it was that great of a film. I absolutely adored this movie. And Charlie Brown is such a great character, but I have to say, the star is Snoopy. He steals the whole movie, in my opinion. Okay, now I really wrestled with the order of the top 2, so I'm gonna cheat a little bit, and so my number 1 movie of all time, my number 1 favorite movie of 2015 is 2 movies. And those 2 movies are The Last 5 Years and Star Wars: The Force Awakens. The Last 5 Years is another independent film adaptation of an off-Broadway musical written by Jason Robert Brown, which actually is based on his first marriage that he turned into a musical. And it tells the stories of Kathy and Jamie. And it's very interesting because Kathy's story is told in backward chronology. It goes from the end of their relationship to the beginning, and Jamie's goes from the beginning of their relationship all the way to the end, and they meet up in the middle with their proposal and their marriage. It's a sung-through musical, so every single scene that these characters are in is sung through. And I have to tell you, I personally am not a huge fan of sung-through musicals. I like some, but I don't like all, because I remain very, very affirm that when you are setting dialogue to music, you have to have some heft and importance to what you're setting to music. You can't just have dialogue willy-nilly set to music, because I think that when you set anything to music, you have to have some importance and meaning behind it. And I have to say that The Last 5 Years is my favorite musical that I've seen since last year's Into the Woods. And I know that that's kind of whatever, but I really, really loved it. The film cast recording with Anna Kendrick and Jeremy Jordan, I listened to that on endless loop, both before and after the movie came out. And I love, 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 love this film. Jeremy Jordan's incredible. Anna Kendrick steals every scene that she's in, and the vocal chops of both of these actors are remarkable. And of course, Star Wars: The Force Awakens. I already reviewed this movie. You can find it in my channel. It's one of my most recent uploads, and I'll just briefly touch on what I loved about this film. I thought it was a perfect welcome back to the franchise. I thought that the standout cast performances for me personally were Daisy Ridley, Adam Driver, and Harrison Ford. And it's beautiful Star Wars nostalgia mixed with brand new characters and brand new storylines, and I cannot wait for episode 8. And it's one of my favorite movies of all time that I've ever seen, and my number 1 favorite movie of the year, along with the last 5 years. So that is my top 15 list for my favorite movies of 2015. As I said, leave down in the comments below, what was your favorite movie of 2015? Be sure to give this video a big thumbs up, hit the subscribe button if you're not already subscribed. You can follow me on all 3 of my social media websites. The links to those are in the video description on Twitter, Instagram, and Tumblr. Thank you so much for watching, and I have one more specialty video to release, and then we'll finally get to doing the content that I had initially said I was going to do, which is musical reviews. I promise, but those are going to come out after the new year is already done. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.